Hi, I'm Edward J. Stamis, and I'm here in Boston, Massachusetts, United States of America. It's June 1st, 2014, and I'm here to read and endorse and fully support the School of Humanities Universal Declaration of Demand for Law Enforcement and the ABC Solution on the Global Systematized Human Abuse of Forced Circumcision on Children and Adults, also known as Forced Medically Not Warranted Circumcision, Brit Milah, Routine Infant Circumcision, Sunat, Forced Circumcision on Male, Female, and Intersex Humans, or Forced Human Genital Mutilation. Declared in the United States of America, based on A. Federal Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, CAPTA, 42 USCA, Section 5106G, 2010. B. U.S. Constitution, 14th Amendment, Section 1, Equal Protection Clause. C. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1, Executive Power, and Section 3, Clause 5 of the Constitution, the Take Care Clause. And D. Human Rights Declaration, UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. This is addressed to President Barack Obama of the United States of America on June 1st, 2014. The act of forced circumcision on humans of any age or gender not only violates the person's right of psycho and physiological integrity, but also the very foundation of human existence, the law of creation. Any such act violates both the spirit and letter of the principle of democracy and its concept of the rule of law, and thus, any such act violates the spirit and letter of the United States Constitution, statutory law, and the Universal Human Rights Declaration, all of which are based on the law of creation, the very foundation of every true democratic nation. And whereas any form of forced circumcision on humans of any age and gender is outlawed in every true democratic jurisdiction, thus also in the United States of America, regardless by who, on whom, and for whatever reason inflicted. The President of the United States of America and his government are fully aware of the national, yet global, systematized perpetration of medically not warranted circumcision, aka routine child circumcision, aka forced human circumcision, perpetrated also on millions of male children throughout the United States of America. We, and again, as we have done so repeatedly in the past, specifically point out the inarguable fact that any form of forced circumcision on humans of any age and gender constitutes the criminal act of an infliction of a non-accidental injury inflicted absent consent of the person that this act is perpetrated on. And herewith, I inform the President and his government again of the inarguable fact that any such act is outlawed under democratic rule of law in any true democratic jurisdiction, regardless of by whom, on whom, and why. If we know better, we are able to do better. In times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes an evolutionary act. Forced circumcision on humans is an act of blasphemy, an act against Creator and creation. Forced circumcision on humans is a subhuman act and a crime against humanity. Forced circumcision on humans has no right of existence. The prime cause of systematized perpetration of forced circumcision is systemic indoctrination from childhood on. Only because of this systemic indoctrination of deceitful arguments, people are able to do this subhuman act. The only way to free humanity from forced circumcision is to eliminate the prime cause, this universal deceit. Telling the truth, full spectrum information, enforcement of law by implementation of the Universal Declaration's ABC solution is the predominant educational factor, the key solution to end this systematized brainwash and thus to end and prevent the systematized perpetration of forced circumcision on humans altogether. Yes, in order to free humanity from suffering and from perpetrating this subhuman act, it is absolutely essential to inform the public that this systematized child abuse of removing the healthy foreskin, this infliction of preventable physical and psychological injury on the child, is primarily caused by systematized indoctrination from childhood on, and is continuously caused by the circulation of false and misleading information, fallacious arguments, lies, deception, indoctrinated in various disguises. As a result of this continuous systemized brainwash, billions of humans still think, speak, and act if forced circumcision of male children were normal behavior, socially adequate, humane, a parental right to decide, as if parents were to have a legal right to make their informed decision on whether or not they wish to have their child genitally mutilated, as if it were a religious, traditional right and even duty to do so, as if male genital mutilation were legal, as if only female genital mutilation was outlawed, but boys were accorded no such legislative protection, as if the FGM law were constitutional, as if removing the foreskin is relative to HIV prevention, as if cutting the healthy prepuce were to have any form of health benefit. Whereas a certain part of humanity even claims that to modify the child's healthy penis, thus to inflict non-accidental injury on the male child's healthy genitalia, were in the best interest of the child's well-being. And there is another certain part of humanity that even claims to have a genitally mutilate male children because God commanded it. A claim that, of course, is no less blasphemy, perverse, all in all subhuman than the act of forced circumcision and the sucking of the infant's penis during Mitzatza B'Peh. The only way to end and prevent this systematized child abuse is to eliminate its prime cause, namely, to eliminate this systematic brainwash from childhood on, and the only way to do that is to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The truth must be told regardless of the psychosymptomatic fact that from childhood on indoctrinated minds and hearts refuse to hear the truth. It is paramount that the government informs the public correctly. Forced circumcision is countered by first exposing the falseness of its supposed connection to legality. Where this systematized brainwash from childhood on has many different faces, people are deceived to think, speak, and act so as if this obvious wrong were a legal act to do. This is why the truth must be told that forced circumcision is outlawed. Forced circumcision on humans of any age and gender is principally outlawed under the Act of Creation thus infringes on the guarantees of constitutional and statutory rights secured in any true democratic jurisdiction, just as these rights are, of course, naturally secured by the Human Rights Declaration. If perpetrated on adults, this act constitutes the criminal act of assault. If perpetrated on children, this act constitutes the criminal act of child abuse, as defined under U.S. federal law, the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, or CAPTA, 42 U.S.C.A. Section 5106G, 2010 PL 111-320, which states, child abuse is a criminal offense that involves the physical, emotional, or sexual mistreatment of or infliction of non-accidental injury to a child committed by a parent or other party if responsible for the child's welfare or not, either purposeful or due to neglect. Any recent act or failure to act on the part of a parent or caretaker or any other person which results in death, serious physical or emotional harm, sexual abuse or exploitation, or an act or failure to act which presents an imminent risk of serious harm. Thus, 1. The act of infliction of non-accidental injury by way of medically not warranted genital alteration, i.e. by way of circumcision, excision, or infibulation, is being systemically perpetrated on male and female children throughout humanity, and this crime against humanity is also perpetrated within the United States of America. 2. The President and his government are fully aware of who the perpetrators of this systematized child abuse are. The government knows the time and place of perpetration, of the perpetrator's motivations, and of the prime cause that causes the motivation, and are also fully aware of the key solution, the ABC solution to end this systematized perpetration. 3. The act of forced circumcision, as is the perverse nature of infliction of preventable injury, also results in preventable physical and in numerous known cases in psychological injury, and has, in numerous known cases, even caused death. The President and his government are fully aware of these inarguable facts. 4. Any such act infringes upon the guarantees of rights secured by the U.S. federal and state law, both statutory and constitutional, and these guarantees of rights are further secured by the Universal Human Rights Declaration. 5. Any form of human genital mutilation is prohibited within the entire United States jurisdiction, and this without abridging the exercise of any rights guaranteed under the First Amendment to the Constitution or under any other law. 6. The unique circumstances surrounding the act of forced circumcision on humans of any age and gender place it beyond the authority of any single state or local jurisdiction to decide whether or not to enforce the law on such act. 7. The fact that forced circumcision of humans of any age and gender is outlawed makes it clear that a parental right of giving consent on medically not warranted circumcision on children does not exist. B. A religious or cultural or traditional right of perpetrating forced circumcision does not exist. 8. The U.S. Constitution, in its 14th Amendment, Section 1, the Equal Protection Clause, guarantees every citizen of any age and gender equal protection. 9. The executive branch of government has the constitutional obligation to enforce the law on any form of forced human genital alteration, regardless of by whom and why and on whom inflicted. 10. The President of the United States of America, as chief executive, has the constitutional obligation in accordance with Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 of the Constitution, and furthered by the declaration made in Article 2, Section 3, Clause 5 of the Constitution, to take care the laws are faithfully executed. True humanism, and thus the true spirit and letter of the principles of democracy and its concept of the rule of law, has no room for any form of anti-creation activity, and thus also certainly not for the subhuman act of forced circumcision. Hereby, on this day, June 1st, 2014, we, the undersigned, in knowledge and fulfillment of our human right and duty to end and prevent human genital mutilation, in agreement with the Universal Declaration and its ABC solution, in order to ensure compliance with the principle of democracy, its concept of the rule of law and human rights declaration, which is also the foundation of the United States of America, we demand for the well-being of creation, and in it so naturally for the well-being of humanity, from Barack Obama, President of the United States of America, to govern within democracy's principles and concepts of the rule of law. We demand that Barack Obama exercise the executive power given to the office of the President of the United States of America in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution, and furthered by the declaration to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, made in Article 2, Section 3, Clause 5, and so to immediately implement the Universal Declaration's ABC solution and have the law enforced on any form of forced human circumcision. To have the law enforced on the very act that constitutes the criminal act of an infliction of non-accidental injury on a child, the very act that constitutes physical child abuse and is thus outlawed under federal capital law, regardless by who, on whom, and why this act is being perpetrated, and so to fulfill the government's constitutional duty to protect all children equally as guaranteed to every child of any age and gender by the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. To do so by way of implementation of the Universal Declaration's ABC solution. A. To inform the public any form of forced human circumcision is outlawed. B. To inform the public about amnesty. The law will not be enforced on any past such acts. C. To inform the public the law will be enforced on any forced human circumcision from now on. Signed together with all endorsees of this declaration, Edward J. Stammis.